So first, I want to say thank you for that setup on sustainability. That was probably the perfect segue to this conversation. Welcome. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about something that I think is relevant for most of us in the room, how we're bringing purpose and sustainability into our marketing. I'm really thrilled to be joined by Kelvin Lammers from TRUFF and Sally Barton from Mondelēz. So if you both want to introduce yourselves, then I'll introduce myself and we'll get started.
So hi everyone, I'm Sally. I lead marketing excellence at Mondelēz, which means that I look after ensuring that our marketers have the capabilities, skills, inspiration, community to be kick-ass marketers. Before that, I was on the brand side on many of our Mondelēz brands like Triscuit, Oreo, and Cadbury, and super excited to be here with everyone today.
Awesome. And hey, everyone, I'm Kelvin Lammers, the SVP of TRUFF. For those of you who don't know, TRUFF is a truffle-infused condiment brand. We started with our original hot sauce and have since expanded into pasta sauce, mayo, and truffle oil. I oversee our e-com and digital platforms. We are a emerging digitally native brand, so what that entails is quite extensive, as a lot of our touch points are digital. Before TRUFF, I have been in the CPG, food and beverage space for about 10 years, was with Kind Snacks, Buy Brands, Spindrift Sparkling Water, and Health Aid Kombucha before that. So excited to be here.
And I'm Nicole Silver. I'm the SVP of Marketing for Volta Charging. For anyone who's not familiar with Volta, we are both an electric vehicle charging network. Somebody asked me earlier, we charge all types of electric vehicles, and a very unique place-based digital advertising platform. Our charging stations and advertising placements are located directly in front of retail destinations, which means that we're able to offer a very contextually relevant experience as well as a uniquely sustainable format that's also consistently demonstrated full funnel impact from brand awareness all the way through to incremental sales. And so I'm very appreciative for the setup. We talk a lot about sustainability with the brands we work with, and we can dive right in. So let's talk a little bit about purpose-based marketing and sustainability. And I'd love if you can each share with me an example of purpose-driven marketing that has stood out to you in your career. And spoiler alert, we know it is the afternoon, so we will have some things in here to keep us entertaining and pique your interest as we go.
You go.
Yeah, you go first.
So I think I mentioned Kind Snacks, and really I still hold that up as kind of a best-in-class example of a purpose-driven brand and company, and obviously that was very heavily ingrained in everything that we did at Kind. And I'm not sure if Josh is still here, but shout out to him, and might have to bring him up at a later date to speak to that in more detail, as one campaign that his team was heavily involved with, as we both worked at Kind, was the #KindAwesome campaign. And that really celebrated everyday acts of kindness, had a full rollout campaign, a booklet that we sent out to a number of different influencers. And really the whole idea behind it was celebrating those everyday random acts of kindness, in New York, across the country, and it had the dual purpose of a Kind Awesome card, where those that were given one could go online to our digital experience and redeem for a free Kind bar. So it had the dual purpose of driving trial while also celebrating those random acts of kindness. And so I think that was just one example of many at Kind that really exuded the lifeblood of that company, and really kind of promoting kindness both to the world, to others, as well as to your body with the ingredients that were in the products. So that would probably be the one to mention.
Even though it's a competitor, I do love that one as well. So the campaign that I'm going to talk to is one that's very close to my heart and stomach, and that's Cadbury. I may or may not import a lot of UK Cadbury chocolate every time I go home to visit. So in 2019, the Cadbury UK team, so I can't claim this, It's all the UK team. I was already over here in the US. They launched a campaign called Donate Your Words. So Cadbury has, for over 100 years, been this brand that always stood for generosity, for connection, like right back in 1905. When the factory was built, it was a factory that looked after its workers so well. It was known as the factory in a garden. So that's always been in the heart of Cadbury. The product itself has a generous glass and a half of milk inside, so it's famously known for that. And then in 2019, the team thought, well, how can I make this purpose come to life in a more relevant, modern way? And the reason I love this campaign is it was really prescient. It was all about loneliness and a space that really needed some generosity being brought to it. And that was before the pandemic. So they looked at elderly people in the UK. They partnered with Age UK. And they also found a way to bring the product into the heart of it as well. So they did loads of amazing, creative, really emotive stuff. They partnered with TV channels as well. And I think we have a little clip just to share of what that looked like.
I am alone, and it's not really very nice feeling.
Just go to the park and then go to the shops. Just have someone to talk to.
I don't know, the neighbors. They just pass you by. You don't exist. There's nothing more important than being acknowledged by people and just talk to them.
You have to have a conversation, don't you? Well, that's what it's all about.
225,000 older people often go a whole week without speaking to anyone. Cadbury are donating their words to help. And you can donate your words too. Search Donate Your Words.
Just few little words. That's all it takes. But it makes so much difference.
And if you notice if you skip this part, I have a feeling that the UK team worked with Google on that in the UK.
So one of the things that I love about both of those is that they're illustrations of the brand purpose and the brand themselves that are then executed, and so they're very authentic because they build on the brand themselves rather than being a specific let me go be purposeful or something like that. And so we've talked throughout the day about consumers and what role they play in the decisions marketers are making. So let's talk about consumers and how you see consumer behavior shifting and how that is affecting your go-to-market strategy, particularly around purpose-driven and sustainable initiatives. And Sally, why don't you start first on this one?
Sure. So I'm sure everybody in this room is aware that consumers have a really heightened awareness of sustainability, and they're holding brands to account at much higher levels now. It's really table stakes, and so they're much more aware. They're doing their own research, and so that accountability that they're holding brands up to, they can do that instantly through social media, through our consumer care lines. Like, we're hearing about it. So for us, that means that we do have to be really responsive and really communicative and transparent with our consumers, because we absolutely want to do the right thing. So what it means is that when we go to market, we have to have a communication strategy that is ready to respond, ready to communicate and engage with consumers. Internally, that means that we have to be set up for that. We can't have lengthy approval processes. So we make sure that our social managers, they know the strategy, they know what they're allowed to say, and they have permission to go ahead and do it. And we're really transparent about the journey we're on. We know we're not there, we're not perfect, but we're really clear about where we're going. So that's one aspect of it. I would say the other is just knowing that consumers do their research. So you can't go out there and say something if you don't have the receipts to back it up. We need to make sure that we have that integrity, so we do a lot of due diligence. I don't know if anybody saw International Women's Day and how that played out in the UK this year. All the companies were like, Happy International Women's Day, go women. But there was a chat bot there's a Twitter bot called the pay gap bot or something like that. And they were automatically tweeting the median pay difference for women in those companies. Some of them had a 73% difference, and they were tweeting about International Women's Day. So it just really goes to show that you will be held accountable for the actions you make. And I think just as we heard earlier, you can't be seen as greenwashing. You have to have that credibility behind it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was brought up in the last session, but yeah, all customers, they have platforms, they use their voices, and they expect transparency and authenticity. And if you try to pull a fast one on them, we'll call it, they will call you out for it. And I think we can all think of. Hello? There we go. And I think we can all think of an example of a campaign that we've seen in the past where. Hello. Thanks, Nicole. I think we can all think of an example in the past that we've seen of a company doing just that, and the backlash and feedback loop is now instantaneous and immediate. And I think you need to have that, through the early concept phase with any campaign, with any new product, that needs to be true. And if you are leading with a purpose-led message or mission, that needs to be, from the get-go, and it needs to be true to the spirit of the brand and the product that you're launching. Otherwise, you will feel and see that backlash and feedback immediately.
Awesome. So on that, and being authentic, protecting yourselves against your very knowledgeable consumers, let's talk a little bit about each of your brand's journeys with purpose-based marketing and sustainability, and some of the decisions and commitments that you've made, and or the decisions and commitments you have not made, perhaps the roads less taken. Why don't you kick this one off, Kelvin?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, with TRUFF, I think this is a kind of a perfect segue where we're a premium condiment brand. So very different positioning from a Kind Snacks. So that also kind of leads with how we lead with, or maybe how much we make purpose-driven marketing kind of a focal point of the brand as could be expected. It's not an inherent or kind of natural extension right off the bat. So that's where we really focused on sustainability to this point as first and foremost. And I think this was brought up. We really do see ourselves. We're a premium brand. A lot of our packaging is similar to the luxury beauty space, and so that goes along with how we've really focused on sustainability with our packaging and our products. Whole Foods was one of the first retailers that we had nationwide distribution with, and for those of you that know, Whole Foods has very strict guidelines or requirements for your products and how you're sourcing them, producing them. So we partnered with them to certify all of our products as non-GMO, as well as vegan outside of our mayo products for obvious reasons. So sustainability is definitely been the key area that we focused on and been able to focus on. And then from an e-commerce perspective, there are table stakes, as kind of Sally mentioned, whether that's reducing your overall carbon footprint with carbon offsets for deliveries, reducing packaging waste, things like that are table stakes, and going back to the consumer, that's expected from the consumer in this day and age.
So over at Mondelēz, we are in, I think, the fortunate position that we've been given clear direction from right from the top. So we as a business have a very clear purpose, a global business that has a purpose of snacking made right. We celebrate our purpose so much that we have an annual Purpose Day. It's coming up in October. And then we also have 4 big strategic priorities for the organization. And one of those 4 is sustainability. So right from the start, we have the permission to prioritize these things. Then when it comes to our brands, for every brand, we're making these decisions of which road to follow, which road not. And it really comes down to what is the purpose at the heart. I loved what Mary said earlier about, should we do an NFT for a makeup brand? And well, no, if that doesn't fit with the purpose, if your purpose is about inclusivity, then probably not right. Should we do a truffle Oreo? We'll have to decide.
Only if I get to taste it.
And so for our brands such as Triscuit, a brand that I worked on, that brand has always lived to nourish people. Again, it's one of those brands that's been around since 1902. We've got all these really great iconic brands that have been around for 100 years. So the work that we do to determine, where do we go is we think about where the brand started, why it exists to serve consumers. We then do the due diligence with consumers to understand our right to play, because there are, I'm sure, many areas where Triscuit doesn't have a right to play. But because it's always existed to nourish, it's always been made of 3 simple ingredients: wheat, oil, and salt. So we know that from talking to consumers that there was a great opportunity to take our purpose into the social sphere and make an impact on food insecurity in the US. Not only was it kind of something that felt right for the brand in terms of what it exists to do, but it also was something that consumers were incredibly passionate about. They felt appalled, really emotional that in the US today, there are people that don't have access to fresh, nourishing food. So it kind of hit all of those things: what the brand stands for and has a right to play, what consumers are really passionate about, and where we have the opportunity to make a difference. We then looked for, how can we make an impact here? Is this something we go ahead and do on our own? Do we find a big organization to work with? And we realized that actually, firstly, we're not the experts in solving this. We make crackers, but we knew that there were partners out there that were already making a big impact on that. So we partnered with change makers who were grassroots, who were just really making an impact already in those communities. And again, this kind of kicked off before the pandemic, and then it was one of those projects that was reviewed when the pandemic hit. Should we still be working on this? 100% more. So we kicked off with that program, and I think I have a little video just to show what that looked like too.
At Triscuit, we believe no one should go without access to affordable fresh food. But millions of Americans in food deserts do. Let's help change that. Introducing the Missing Ingredients Project by Triscuit. For generations, we've been weaving whole grain nourishment into our products, and now we're on a mission to weave more nourishment into food deserts by helping to provide access to affordable fresh foods. The Missing Ingredients Project by Triscuit.
Oh, thank you. And like I say, we're on a journey. I feel like I'm not showing these to everybody to be like, look how great we are. But we are really, learning as we go and working with consumers, working with our partners to progress these programs.
And we also know it's still working. We're very friendly up here. We also know that it's the afternoon, so we want to keep everyone engaged. So really important point that you just made, going back to when the pandemic started. Should we be doing this? Where do purpose-based campaigns and focuses on sustainability fit in a world where we each have businesses to run and we're each responsible as marketers for a certain set of outcomes? And so I'd love for us to talk a little bit about those decisions and trade-offs, and how Mondelēz and TRUFF are balancing the outcomes we need to deliver with the commitment to purpose, commitment to sustainability in these programs. And Sally, why don't you go first, and then Kelvin?
It's a great question, especially when you're a public-funded company, you have your shareholders, you have your stakeholders to consider. So for us, we're very clear that it's around a long-term play. I mean, purpose really does have to be about that commitment. I've talked about 100-year-old brands that are really committed to their purpose, and to really avoid that view of being performative or transactional, you have to kind of sign up with the commitment there. So it does mean getting your stakeholders on board with that from the start, and knowing that you are committing not to a 1-year, 2-year thing, but to a multi-year proposal to build in that space and to build that connection and trust with your consumers. And then it's really knowing, and aligning on the KPIs. This isn't about a short-term sales turnaround. It's about building brand health. It's about upper funnel. It's, for our brands, a lot of the time, it's where we've identified that, we need to stay relevant. Triscuit isn't just for your grandma anymore. It's hopefully for a new generation, so it can stay around another 100 years. So that means that, we're looking at brand health metrics around relevance, meaning, trust, and trying to build that loyalty with consumers. So it has a real role in the brand strategy, but it is part of that long-term role that it's playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with TRUFF, given we're a digitally native brand, that social listening and brand health tracking has been something that we've been monitoring and tracking closely, and that's been one of our primary KPIs as a digitally native brand. So that is something that we're tracking, and we're getting that real-time feedback. So we're tracking CSAT, NPS scores, and so anything we're doing, that is a key measure that we're tracking along with to make sure that it is fitting. And again, feeling authentic, staying true to the brand, and also having that positive momentum with the general consumer and social audience. So that's certainly the key way that we're tracking along with that. I think Sally kind of mentioned, don't see we don't see the sustainability or purpose kind of initiatives for that matter as a sales driving vehicle. There is an awareness component, and as an emerging brand, that is important for us to get our name out there and increase our overall visibility and awareness. But it is not an immediate sales driver or focused initiative, and nor should it be. And some of those conversations, especially again for an emerging brand, can be a little bit tougher if you're trying to justify a multi-million-dollar investment that might actually hurt your bottom line. That's very very tough kind of decision to be making when you have limited funds. So definitely need to have that long-term vision and keep that guiding light to steer you through that.
It's also particularly interesting, given what you mentioned, getting into Whole Foods and packaging requirements, and that some of these things may be long-term, some of these things may be investments in growth or in where you need to go and in the outcomes you need to deliver. So we've talked a little bit about, as a segue from previously, where brand purpose and sustainability fit in for brands, how they fit into campaigns. Now we wanted to wrap up to talk a little bit about what it means for us as marketers. So what is the role, what does it feel like to work on purpose-based marketing or sustainability? How does that impact the impact that your teams can have? And how does that impact the way you lead your teams and organizations? And Sally, why don't you jump in?
So for me, in my role now as a marketing excellence lead, I'm not only thinking about brands, I'm really thinking about people and the people that are growing those brands. So I have now an even heightened awareness of how important it is to have a happy, high-performing team that are really inspired, motivated, engaged behind what they're doing. And the work that we are able to do on our brands, we have really great programs on Oreo and SP and Sour Patch Kids, on Triscuit, that the brand teams are able to really harness their own personal passions and really bring their personal purpose and value into their roles. And for me personally, that was the case. It was amazing to be able to design a program, to find the right partners to work with, to see the benefit of that, to work with media partners that had the same mission. And it's a way that we can really drive that fulfillment, but also have that opportunity to really control something from within. Like, by working through the brand, I'm able to do a lot more than I would be able to do just as me, Sally. So I'm using that power while I have it and trying to make a difference. And I think that's the way, hopefully, the teams are seeing it and, are really being able to bring themselves and their personal passion into what they do.
Yeah, I think I, from a personal perspective, I think I've kind of chosen the brands and companies I've worked with, similar to how I am as a consumer, and I think more and more that's happening where I want to align myself with a brand that I believe in, that I respect their mission, what they're trying to do. I think this was an idea that I actually learned from and first heard from the founder of Kind, Daniel, the not only for profit idea. Like, you can sell things, you can have a revenue-driven company, but you can also bring about impact. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can bring about a change while also having a profit-driven company at the same time, or a focused company. So I think that's important, and I think as more and more Gen Z, younger people are entering the workplace, that's also the expectation that they're having for the companies, the brands that they're working for. So I think that's hyper important to bring about that and in place that with the teams, with organizations, to continue to drive that investment and focus with your teams and your employees.
Awesome. So I could keep going all day, but I want to make sure that there's some time for anyone in the audience who has questions. So does anyone have a question they'd like to ask?
I will.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm E.B. Moss. Thanks for this. It's an area of passion for, I think, a lot of us in the room. What's the difference between how you communicate purpose, sustainability in things like your D2C messaging versus broad brand awareness messaging?
Yeah, I guess I can kick that off. I think having been in the e-commerce space for a while now, I think that definitely is more of a direct message in terms of the specific carbon footprint offset or the packaging and fulfillment itself. So whether it's lower carbon delivery carriers or lower waste packages or right-sized dimensions. I think there's been a push towards overall just reduced carbon fulfillment overall. So I think it's been much more at the focal point or at the point of purchase, I would say, because even from an e-commerce perspective, I think I mentioned this earlier. It's almost table stakes now to have that carbon footprint or carbon offset option at checkout. So it's much more visible, I think, than it might be from a brand perspective, where it can be a part of the message, but I wouldn't say it's as much a focal point or as visible as it might be from an e-commerce perspective. Because I think this came up during the prep call for this, but I think we've all had an experience where we've ordered something from a retailer and it's had 8 pounds of plastic bubble wrap. It's 4 times too big. So it's so visceral and immediate that that's just something that you need to account for right off the bat. I think so that's, I guess, how I would describe it.
It's a great question because we have two kind of very different businesses that probably do each differently. So I think while TRUFF is like really there with the D2C and Mondelēz, we're kind of building our D2C. We have like a few business areas, like, we have a Sour Patch store, an Oreo store that we're building. But a lot of our communication is through the big brand communication because we are trying to build those higher funnel brand health metrics. But it's an area that we're growing. So the DTC area is an area that we kind of need to continue to evolve and learn. I know that across all of our packaging, we have various ESG goals that we've set for ourselves for 2025 that we're striving to meet, whether it's 100% recyclable packaging, it's the communication on the packaging. So at those points of consumer interaction, we're really ramping up there because that's where, consumers are going to continue to make more and more decisions about which brand, which product they want to choose. So for us, it has to be both. I think we're strong in the overall brand place at the moment, but we're building upon the D2C. We could probably learn from e-com native businesses like TRUFF.
And that's where I think this is definitely a topic that I think we all are learning from each other, because I think that's where we nobody is doing it perfectly. I think that's to say the least. So I think we can all learn collectively and grow together. So that's definitely the case.
Anyone else? Perfect. So thank you so much, Calvin and Sally. This was really great. I hope that everybody is able to leave with some thoughts about the role of sustainability and purpose for their brand, how it may be part of their messaging, and how it might be part of the way they operate their team, and think about how this can be a motivator and a driver in some of the marketing that you're doing day to day. And if there ever is a TRUFF Oreo collaboration, you'll be the first to know about it. It started here.
Thank you.